The Zakatar assessment. The void between stars trembled as reality tore open like wounded flesh. Through the gaping wound in space-time emerged the Zakatar Imperial Fleet, 200 vessels of death and conquest that had brought entire civilizations to their knees. Each ship bore the scars of victory, their black hulls decorated with the symbols of conquered worlds. Admiral Kexivor stood motionless on the command deck of his flagship, the Bone Crusher. His reptilian features remained calm as his golden eyes surveyed the human solar system through the massive viewport. At 12 feet tall with scales harder than battle armor, Kexivor had personally overseen the subjugation of 47 different species. His clawed hands rested behind his back as he studied the primitive yellow star and its collection of small worlds. The bridge around him hummed with efficient activity. Zakatar officers moved with predatory grace, their movements precise and deadly. Each wore the ceremonial scars that marked their kills in personal combat. In Zakatar culture, only those who had proven themselves as hunters could serve in the Imperial Fleet. Status report, Kexivor commanded, his voice carrying the natural authority of an apex predator. Sub-Admiral Veltar approached with measured steps. Her scales bore a darker hue than Kexivor's, marking her as a member of the warrior caste. Admiral, our scouts have completed their assessment of the human settlements. They possess crude interplanetary capabilities, but nothing that could threaten our forces. Kexivor examined the holographic display that materialized before him. It showed the human solar system in detail, with small colonies scattered across several worlds and a modest collection of mining operations in the asteroid fields. The intelligence painted a picture of a species barely capable of basic space travel. How many military installations? Kexivor inquired. 17, Admiral. Most are converted civilian facilities with basic defensive capabilities. Their largest, warship, measures only 300 meters in length. Veltar paused, allowing a slight hiss of amusement to escape her throat. Our smallest destroyer is twice that size. The bridge crew exchanged the clicking sounds that served as Zakatar. Laughter. It was almost insulting to call this a conquest. Most species they encountered at least attempted to put up meaningful resistance before surrendering. These humans appeared to be little more than an advanced animal species playing with space travel. What of their population centers? Kexivor asked. The third planet contains approximately 8 billion individuals. Standard protocol suggests we could pacify the entire system within one solar rotation using minimal force. Kexivor nodded slowly. In his 2 centuries of military service, he had never encountered a species this vulnerable. The humans had spread across their system like prey animals, with no apparent understanding of military strategy or defensive positioning. Their settlements were scattered and poorly protected. Their space stations were essentially civilian outposts with token defensive measures. Initiate first contact protocol, Kexivor ordered. Standard intimidation display. Meanwhile, on Earth, Captain Elena Rodriguez was reviewing mining reports in the Deep Space Monitoring Center when every alarm in the facility began screaming simultaneously. Elena had spent 10 years working the asteroid mines before joining Earth's Defense Corps, and she had never heard the unknown contact alerts before today. Elena ran through the underground corridors, her boots echoing off metal walls as she reached the command center. The scene that greeted her was controlled chaos. Dozens of technicians worked frantically at their stations, while massive screens displayed sensor readings that defied explanation. Report, Elena called out as she reached the central command console. Lieutenant Marcus Webb turned from his station, his face pale with shock. Captain, we have 200 unknown vessels that just appeared at the edge of our solar system. They're massive, and they're heading directly toward Earth. Elena stared at the tactical display in disbelief. 200 ships. Earth's entire defense fleet consisted of 28 vessels, most of them converted mining ships with basic weapon systems. The largest human warship was the UESV Guardian, and according to the sensors, it would be dwarfed by even the smallest alien vessel. Any attempt at communication? Elena asked. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, reported communications specialist Lisa Park. The translation systems are working on it now. The main screen flickered as an incoming transmission locked onto their receivers. The image that appeared made everyone in the command center fall silent. The alien commander was enormous and clearly predatory, with golden eyes that seemed to peer directly into their souls. When he spoke, the translation appeared as text at the bottom of the screen. Inhabitants of this system, I am Admiral Kexfor of the Zakhtar Imperial Fleet. Your species has been selected for integration into our empire. You have 72 of your hours to evacuate all military personnel from this system and prepare for occupation. Any resistance will result in the complete elimination of your species. This is your only warning. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in absolute silence. Elena looked around at her colleagues and saw her own thoughts reflected in their faces. 72 hours to surrender everything humanity had built, or face extinction. Get me Admiral Chen, Elena said, quietly. Admiral James Chen arrived within minutes, his weathered face grim as he studied the sensor data. He had commanded Earth's modest defense forces since their creation, watching humanity slowly build its presence in space. He had always known this day might come, but he had hoped they would have more time to prepare. Status of our outer system. Assets? Chen asked. Sir, we've lost contact with the Jupiter Research Station, reported Sergeant Williams from the Communications Bank. The Mars colonies are requesting evacuation orders. Elena stepped forward. Admiral, I'd like to propose something unconventional. Chen looked at her with interest. I'm listening, Captain. These aliens expect us to fight like every other species they've conquered. They expect organized military resistance that they can crush with superior firepower. But what if we don't give them what they expect? What are you suggesting? Elena gestured to the tactical display showing human settlements scattered throughout the solar system. We have 8 billion people, Admiral. Miners, engineers, farmers, scientists, factory workers. What if instead of fighting like a military, we fight like humans? Chen frowned. Explain. Every human settlement becomes a source of resistance. Every mining ship becomes a potential weapon. Every civilian with technical knowledge becomes part of our defense. We don't meet them in space combat where they have the advantage. We make this system so complicated and unpredictable that they can't use their standard conquest protocols. Meanwhile, aboard the Bone Crusher, Admiral Kexivor was reviewing the decoded human communications. Something was troubling him about the intercepted messages. Unlike other species the Zakhtar had encountered, the humans weren't showing the expected panic and despair. Instead, their communications suggested they were organizing. Sub-Admiral, Kexivor called to Veltar. What is your assessment of human communications traffic? Veltar approached with a data tablet. Admiral, the patterns are unusual. Most conquered species show decreased communication as panic sets in. The humans are showing increased communication across all frequencies. Kexivor studied the communication patterns. In his experience, species facing conquest typically went through predictable phases: denial, panic, negotiation attempts, and finally submission. The humans appeared to be skipping directly to organization and coordination. Are they attempting to coordinate military resistance? Unknown, Admiral. Their communications are heavily encrypted and they're using multiple methods simultaneously: radio, quantum entanglement, laser communication, and some methods our sensors can't identify. This was unexpected. Most species the Zakhtar conquered had relatively simple communication systems. The humans appeared to have multiple redundant networks that were now operating at maximum capacity. Deploy Fear Protocol, Kexivor ordered. Target their largest population center with a demonstration strike. The Zakhtar had perfected the Fear Protocol over 2 centuries of conquest. A single devastating attack on a major population center typically caused immediate surrender from any species with basic intelligence. It was efficient and final. Across the human solar system, people watched in horror as alien ships positioned themselves above Earth's largest cities. But instead of panicking, something remarkable happened. Factory workers began modifying industrial equipment into defensive tools. Mining crews started rigging their ships with improvised weapons. Scientists began sharing research that had been classified for decades. Dr. Sarah Kim, a physicist at the Lunar Research Station, sent a message that reached every human settlement within hours. They expect us to be afraid. They expect us to surrender. but we're humans. We've survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that would have destroyed any other species. We don't surrender. We adapt. Elena Rodriguez received reports from across the solar system. On Mars, the terraforming teams were converting atmospheric processors into area denial weapons. In the asteroid belt, mining crews were attaching explosive charges to asteroids and calculating intercept courses. On Earth, every major city was implementing plans that had never been tested but were being refined by millions of minds working together. Admiral Kexvor prepared to initiate the fear protocol, but something in the human response pattern was making him hesitate. In 2 centuries of conquest, he had never seen a species respond to overwhelming odds by becoming more organized instead of less. The human communication networks were now operating at levels that exceeded some advanced civilizations the Jakhtar had conquered. "Admiral," Veltar reported, "we're detecting unusual energy signatures from multiple human installations. They appear to be modifying their industrial facilities." Kexvor studied the sensor readings. The humans were doing something no conquered species had ever done. Instead of preparing for evacuation or surrender, they were preparing for war. But not the kind of war the Jakhtar understood. This was something different, something adaptive and unpredictable. As the 72-hour deadline approached, Admiral Kexvor found himself facing a situation no Jakhtar commander had ever encountered. The humans weren't behaving like prey. They were behaving like something the Jakhtar had never encountered before, a species that got stronger when faced with impossible odds. The impossible victory. The moment Admiral Kexvor initiated the fear protocol, everything changed. The Jakhtar flagship fired a single devastating beam at the Australian continent, intending to demonstrate their overwhelming power. The beam struck with the force of a nuclear weapon, creating a crater visible from orbit. By all previous experience, this should have resulted in immediate human surrender. Instead, the human response was unprecedented. Within minutes of the attack, every human settlement in the solar system lit up with activity. Rather than surrender, they had declared war. Elena Rodriguez stood in the emergency command bunker, watching as reports flooded in from across human space. "Status report from all sectors," she called out. "Mars colonies reporting ready for Operation Swarm," Lieutenant Webb announced. "Asteroid mining crews have rigged 47 asteroids with propulsion systems and are awaiting targeting coordinates. Luna Station reports the mass driver is operational and loaded with industrial waste containers," added Communications Specialist Park. "They're calling it Garbage Day." Elena smiled grimly. The humans had spent the last 72 hours doing something no other species had ever done when faced with superior alien technology. They had gotten creative. Admiral Chen appeared on the main screen from the orbital command station. "Elena, are you seeing the Jakhtar fleet movements?" "Yes, sir. They're deploying in standard conquest formation just like our analysis predicted." The Jakhtar had made a critical error. They were approaching each human world using the same tactics that had worked for 2 centuries against other species. But humans weren't other species. Aboard the Bone Crusher, Admiral Kexvor was beginning to experience something he had never felt before: uncertainty. The human response to the fear protocol made no sense according to everything the Jakhtar understood about conquest psychology. "Sub-Admiral Veltar, report on human military movements," Kexvor commanded. "Admiral, that's the problem. We can't identify their military movements because they appear to be using civilian assets as military resources." Kexvor studied the tactical display with growing confusion. The humans had mining ships moving in attack formations, civilian transports deploying in defensive positions, and industrial facilities producing what appeared to be weapons in real time. "Are you telling me they're using their entire civilization as a military force?" "That appears to be correct, Admiral. We're detecting weapon signatures from converted farming equipment, mining lasers being used as ship-mounted weapons, and civilian communication networks coordinating military operations." War Prime Thulnex, the Jakhtar's ground forces commander, approached the command station. His massive frame bore the scars of 100 planetary invasions. "Admiral, my forces are ready to begin surface operations on the 3rd planet. Proceed." With standard occupation protocol, Kexivore ordered, though he was beginning to doubt that standard protocols would work against these humans. The first wave of Jactar dropships descended toward Earth's major population centers. What they encountered defied all military logic. Instead of finding terrified civilians hiding in buildings, they found entire cities that had been converted into defensive positions. Subway tunnels had become military bunkers. Office buildings had been turned into sniper positions. Industrial areas had become weapons manufacturing centers. Engineer Yuki Tanaka had spent the last 3 days converting the Tokyo manufacturing district into what she called a very bad day for invaders. Every factory was now producing something designed to make the alien occupation as difficult as possible. Some manufactured traditional weapons, others created electronic warfare devices, and a few were producing things that didn't have names yet. Remember, Yuki broadcast to the civilian resistance network, we don't need to defeat them. We just need to make occupying us more expensive than leaving us alone. The first Jactar ground forces landed in downtown Tokyo expecting to face minimal resistance from terrified civilians. Instead, they encountered something that violated every principle of military science they understood. The humans weren't fighting like soldiers, they were fighting like humans. Every building contained surprises. Elevators had been rigged to become traps. Office furniture had been converted into weapons. Computer networks had been turned into coordination systems for resistance activities. The Jactar found themselves fighting an entire city population that had somehow transformed into a military force overnight. War Prime Thulnex reported back to the fleet with growing frustration. Admiral, we're encountering unprecedented resistance. The humans appear to have converted their entire civilian infrastructure into military assets. What are our casualty rates? Kexivore asked. Higher than expected, Admiral. The humans are using tactics we've never encountered. They're not fighting for territory or strategic positions. They're fighting to make our occupation as difficult as possible. Meanwhile, in space, the human fleet was implementing what Dr. James Chen had dubbed the Swarm Protocol. Instead of engaging the Jactar fleet in traditional space combat, the humans were using everything they had in ways the aliens had never seen. Mining ships equipped with industrial tools attacked Jactar, vessels using techniques designed for asteroid processing. Cargo haulers loaded with industrial waste rammed alien ships at high velocity. Scientific research vessels used experimental technologies as improvised weapons. Captain Elena Rodriguez coordinated the space battle from the Luna Command Station. Asteroid Mining Unit 7, you have target lock on Jactar vessel designated Tango 4. Implement special delivery protocol. In the asteroid belt, Mining Captain Rex Thompson smiled as he released a carefully prepared asteroid on an intercept course with a Jactar destroyer. The asteroid had been hollowed out and filled with mining explosives, creating what the miners called the universe's most expensive cannonball. The Jactar destroyer attempted to blast the incoming asteroid, but the humans had anticipated this. The moment the alien weapons hit the asteroid, it broke apart into dozens of smaller pieces, each still traveling at tremendous velocity and each carrying enough explosives to damage alien ship hulls. Admiral Kexivore watched in amazement as his destroyer's shields failed under the impact of what appeared to be weaponized space debris. How are they doing this? He demanded. Admiral, Veltar reported with something approaching fear in her voice. The humans appear to be using their entire industrial capacity as a weapons system. They're converting mining equipment, transportation, vessels, manufacturing facilities, and even civilian personal items into military assets. The battle continued for 18 hours, and with each passing minute, Admiral Kexivore realized that the Jactar Empire was facing something completely outside their experience. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were getting better at fighting back in real time. Dr. Sarah Kim at the Lunar Research Station had been analyzing Jactar shield technology during the battle. Elena, she broadcast, I figured out their shield harmonics, broadcasting the frequency now to all units. Within minutes, every human weapon in the solar system was modified to exploit the newly discovered weakness in Jactar shields. Mining lasers suddenly became devastatingly effective against alien armor. Industrial tools began penetrating alien defenses that had withstood military-grade weapons from other species. War Prime Thulnex made his final report from the surface of Earth. Admiral, we must withdraw ground forces immediately. The humans have turned their entire planet into a weapons factory. Every civilian is now part of their military. Every building is now a fortress. Every piece of technology is now a weapon. Casualties? Kexavor asked, though he dreaded the answer. 40% and rising, Admiral. We're not fighting an army. We're fighting an entire civilization that has decided to make our conquest impossible. Admiral Kexavor faced a decision no Zaktar commander had ever confronted. For the first time in the Empire's history, continuing a conquest would cost more than abandoning it. The humans had done something no other species had managed. They had made themselves too expensive to conquer. All forces, Kexavor broadcast across the fleet, initiate withdrawal from human space. We are terminating conquest operations. Sub-Admiral Veltar stared at him in shock. Admiral, the Empire has never abandoned a conquest. The Empire has never encountered humans, Kexavor replied. These creatures don't fight like any species we've ever conquered. They fight like the universe itself is their weapon. As the Jaktar fleet withdrew from human space, Admiral Kexavor filed his report to the Imperial High Command. It was the most unusual document in the Empire's history. Species classification, human, status, avoid, reason, conquest economically and militarily unfeasible, recommendation, trade partnership preferred over occupation. Elena Rodriguez watched the alien fleet disappear into hyperspace from the Luna Command Station. Around her, the command center erupted in celebration. Humanity had achieved something unprecedented. They had convinced a superior alien force that conquering them wasn't worth the effort. Admiral, Elena said to James Chen over the communication link, what do we do now? Chen smiled for the first time in days. Now we get back to work, Captain. We've got a solar system to rebuild, and apparently, we've got a reputation to maintain. The galaxy just learned that humans don't surrender. We adapt. Across human space, the celebrations continued, but they were mixed with a new understanding. Humanity had survived their first contact with a hostile alien civilization, not through superior technology or military might, but through something uniquely human. The absolute refusal to give up, combined with the creativity to turn any situation into an advantage. Dr. Sarah Kim summarized it best in her post-battle report. We didn't defeat the Jaktar Empire through superior firepower. We defeated them by being so persistently, creatively, and adaptively human that conquering us became more trouble than it was worth. In the end, our greatest weapon wasn't technology. It was ourselves. The Jaktar Empire eventually became humanity's first alien trading partner, though Admiral Kexavor never quite got over the experience of being the first Imperial commander to retreat from what should have been an easy conquest. In Jaktar military academies, the human encounter became required study, though it was categorized under anomalous species behavior rather than military defeats. And throughout the galaxy, word spread of the small species from the yellow star system that had done the impossible. They had convinced predators to choose prey somewhere else.